Hello, friends. We meet once again. Oh, how are you guys doing? You guys doing good? You guys chilling? You guys holding on as best as you possibly can? I know I am. It's about that time, about that place. It's how things are looking, how things are going. Things are not ideal as of late. Things are not going too hot. I was sure I was gonna have an awful day today. It's an early day. It's a 5 a.m. start. I just got home from work. It's like 6. I left the house at like 5 a.m. Worky. And then I was walking home, and it was raining. And I'm like, well, you know what? That is a vibe. I'm just gonna roll with it. So I did. I got out my little umbrella. I wear my classic reppin' my weeb garb. Actually, wait, let me finish this thing and then I'll show you guys my weeb garb. I don't know if I've shown you this particular piece before, this elegant artwork, but it's definitely poggers. Did I mess up? No, I didn't. Sick. I love this. So brainless, so perfect. I need to get this up anyways, but here we go, boys. Let's do it. Look, Ma, no brains. Can I get my foot? Here's a foot, too. Alright, let's get back down. Done levitating. Ooh, woom. Alright, bros, we're back on the ground now. Well, not on the ground, but in the chair. We are all set. Okay. So anyways, I'm leaving my work. It's, a light spring rain outside. Not too bad. Could be worse. Could be better, but it's definitely not that bad. So anyways, I'm out there, and then I'm just walking, vibing. I don't listen to music these days when I walk anymore. I try and enjoy my walks, just like tuning into things. It's like being in the moment. Maybe that's another video entirely. The ideas just come to me when I'm feeling in the mood to create. But like practicing mindfulness, I know it sounds like some new age hippie nonsense, and it is, but it speaks to me, dude. It just hits me right there. And as I'm walking through this, dreadful rain, the spring gloom, randomly the temperature just increases like 10 degrees all of a sudden. Don't even know why. Rain just stops and big old sun comes out. And then you know what? Everything's fine. I was supposed to feel the worst, and then here we are. I'm doing all right. Not the best, but that's just it. And speaking, not the best, but all right. Let's try and make today's video at least a little bit positive. The gods must have dictated it be that way, so let's talk about combating the black pill, shall we? So there's been a lot of talk throughout the ages, especially on the interwebs, about all of this black pill philosophy and how it's basically over. And for me, it's ogre. Like, I'm willing to accept that, but that's not really the end of it, though. Like, there still comes the cope, the seethe, the dilate after it's over. And that's really where combating the black pill comes in, because let's face it, for some percentage of the population, there's no hope. Case in point, like, it's just ogre before it begins. I'm 5'8", 5'7", somewhere depending on the day. In there ain't no hope. I'm an ugly little Jewish golem. So, heckin' A. That damaged me? Really? Unlucky. But yeah. So, it's not gonna work. So let's talk about what the black pill is. So the black pill is the acceptance that, it's the embrace of nihilism, right? It's never gonna work. It's not worth it. It's just time to give up, stop trying, and embrace hedonism, embrace nihilism. Nothing you do really matters in the end of the day, right? What's the big deal? Let's say if one of your current struggles is, you're attracted to the same sex. Just give in. What's the worst that could happen, right? It's not going to affect your life negatively. It's not going to affect society negatively. Just do what you want. is at the end of the day, the universe dies when you die. There is nothing beyond that. There is, nothing anywhere, period. Right? This would be like black pill. And that there's nothing you can really do. Everything is determined by your genes. And to some extent, that's right. Like, let's give the devil his dues. Like, at the end of the day, if we're talking about relationships, which usually we are in the context of, like, the black pill, there's some percentage of the population that's just not going to make it. And that's fine. And then what comes after is basically coping. So, how do we cope? Well, let's first examine the full black pill, and let's examine why you would want to cope. Is there any reason not to just, let's say you have an eating issue, not to just go and bloat up, become the big boy? Is there any reason why you would take care of yourself, why you would, fight your urges? Let's say you're a map even, let's say you have, thoughts. Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to indulge map? Like, minor addicted persons, why not accept them, right? Why fight against these things? Because at the end of the day, does it matter? It really doesn't. Of course. So, at the end of the day, there's a few universal truths. One, if you're like a reject, if you're one of these low status people, let's just say, if you're someone that's prone to falling into the black pill or full-on nihilism, I understand. I definitely am there. I get it. Like, you have literally one person to talk to, and that's yourself. No one else in the world gives a heck. No one else cares. That's just factually true. There is no one else. Not only that, but you hate the only person you have to talk to. In fact, there's probably no one else in the world that hates the only person you're going to be able to speak to more than you. Now that's a black pill thought. And anyone that says they don't hate themselves, at least on some level, is just straight up selling you bull. Literally no one loves themselves. Everyone hates themselves. A human being is the sum total of your failures, is the sum total of your mistakes, is the sum total of all of the racing thoughts you have at night when you're laying your head down on your pillow. That's who you are as a human being. The rest of it, like triumphs and all of that, and the things you fight for, and all the things you have to say, all of that comes afterwards. There is not a single person alive that does not despise themselves deep down inside if they're being honest. Now, they might cope and lie and seethe and dilate and all that, but, that's their own coping mechanism. But at the end of the day, let's be clear, especially anyone watching this, I think, is willing to accept that they despise themselves, at least on some level. If not fully and completely. No one knows how much you failed. No one has any idea how pathetic you are besides you. And this is the only person you have to frickin' talk to, man. How atrocious of a fate. How utterly obscene. It's beyond the pale, even. Not only are you two the person you have to talk to and your inner monologue and the actual you are inevitably linked, but, at the end of the day, you're going to have to spend the rest of probably your natural life only speaking to this person if you're, one of these low-status individuals. If you're someone that's probably going to be a virgin for the rest of their life. If you failed, that's it. That's all you've got. Yeah, I clicked it once more. So, that's a pretty depressing situation. So how in the world do we escape this nihilism and this, awful development? And I feel like the answer is pretty easy. I feel like it's, pretty obvious when you consider it. So, I think most people are willing to accept no one gives a damn about them but them. Like, your parents might pretend, they might care about you in as far as it's extending their gene pool. They might care about you in as far as you're, like, securing their security later in life, although those things don't really exist anymore. But no one else really gives a damn. Let's be frank about it. That's just life. Like, you can cope, you can dilate, you can cry about it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter except in that specific circumstance. So, why not go into nihilism? Why not give into all of these depraved desires that are obviously inside of you, or else, you wouldn't be a dejected reject. And let's face it, everyone has their weaknesses. Everyone has their temptations. Everyone was born with some sort of sin or vice or some awful thing, right? Show me the man, I'll show you the crimes, in essence. And that is true. Inevitably, you are the sum of all of your bad parts, and that's just how you're going to exist for all eternity. And there's literally nothing anyone can do about that, including you. And not just including you, but most certainly you. So, why even struggle against these things, right? Why not give in? And, the answer is, obviously, the you that fights against whatever's bugging you is going to be infinitely more interesting than the you that doesn't. Like, do you want to talk to the, let's say you're struggling with weight. Do you want to talk to the bulgy you that, refuses to do anything about their situation, that just, moans and gripes and that's it, and then there's nothing else to it? You're just straight up giving up, and that's it. You just wallow in it. You just stuff your face with whatever, you can get nearby that'll sate that desire, that'll fill whatever holes are inside of you. Or you're, attracted to the same sex and you simply can't overcome your desires. You're not interested in trying to, start some sort of a family or contribute to society in any meaningful way. You're not interested in bettering yourself or, the world around you. You're not interested in trying to make a union that, let's say you're a pro-natalist, for instance, that brings new life into this world. All of that is pointless, right? But no, if you talk to yourself, and I recommend everyone do, either you're going to have to at some point in your life if you're going to spend your life alone. And let's face it, a lot of people, especially in the near future, are spending the rest of their lives alone with one person to talk to. That's right here. The person that, is more interesting is the person you're going to want to talk to. And you don't need anyone else. You don't need any sort of theory or logic to justify why you're doing it. You're doing it purely out of your own selfish needs, and why you're fighting and why you're struggling is simply because the you that fights and struggles is going to be more interesting. If you've got gender dysphoria, if that's just who you are, you think you're the opposite gender or whatever, the you that restrains against that, the you that fights against that, the you that struggles and tries to do something, at least, productive with your life, that's moving towards the best possible version of you, is more interesting than the you that's just like, well, I'm just going to give in to the degeneracy. Like, why not, dude? The universe dies with me. Everything is over the moment I evaporate from this mortal coil. Like, I might as well just embrace, the most depraved elements of my subconscious and just live it out, because there's no reason not to. That's just a boring version of you. There's no story to it. There's no struggle. We live in the West. Like, the core of the West is the hero's quest. No matter what, you're going on a journey throughout your heckin' life. So you might as well do something interesting with it, because at the end of the day, the only person that's going to care is you, and the only person you have to talk to is you. So when you're sitting at night alone and you're fighting those restless thoughts about how, X, Y, and Z, or whatever you've done or whatever you've messed up, at least you can say, well, I put down the bag of Cheetos. Well, I, didn't put on the lipstick today, or I didn't, feel compelled to, kiss the same sex, or whatever is your issue. Because everyone's got their own issues, and believe me, you're a pile of heckin' issues. Especially if you're watching this, you're nothing but a degenerate, probably. And nothing you can do is going to change that or help that in any way, shape, or form. But at least you can be interesting to someone, and specifically you. And no one else is going to want to talk to you, no one else cares, but, at the end of the day, you're all you've got. And you've got to at least make yourself somewhat interesting, somewhat tolerable for you to be around. Because if you don't, the end, at least self-deletion, or when you give up, it's caused because there is no more output for you. There is nothing left for you to do. At the end of the day, no matter what, if you're giving into that pure, end of the world sense, it's because you've grown to a point where you can't even stand yourself, and you can't even talk to yourself. And you can't talk to yourself because you're so boring or so uninteresting, because you've given into all your vices, because you're not, accelerating in some way, shape, or form, that you're just this blob of desires that is not moving towards anything, not doing anything, and you're a dread to be around because you're swallowed up by all of this. At least you can say, well, I tried. Even if you fail, at least you can say, well, I tried. That's more interesting than not. And maybe, an order of magnitude is not a lot in most people's, attempts and, the things they're going to do. And, given a fact that most people are tremendous failures, me included, you're going to fail, and you're probably a degenerate, disgusting failure, and everything you've done, you've never done successfully. That's just a fact. Most people are like that. There's certain people that life just happens to, that they're the lucky, blessed ones. They have the halo effect. They have everything they need. They, don't need to think about these things. They never cross their mind because, life sort of happens to them, and because people are naturally attracted and orbit around them, they're fine, and they exist in this bubble away from all of this. But the vast majority of people do not get to enjoy that. The vast majority of people are going to have to deal with it and going to have to just suck it up. and they're going to have to figure something else out. And guess what? You probably are those people. Life probably doesn't happen to you. And if it does, run away from this video and God bless. I hope you never have to think about anything. I hope you just run through life on autopilot and everything sort of kind of works because you have money and status and fame and looks and all of that. If that's for you, like, why are you even watching this? It doesn't apply to you. Like, what is the black pill to you even? You probably don't even think about it. But for the vast majority of people, at the end of the day, your struggles are the only thing that are ever going to be interesting about you. And you trying to overcome them is going to be the only thing that's ever going to be interesting about you. If you've got a horrible or heckin' voice, you might as well try and still make content, just because the you that makes content is more interesting than the you that's working at, your wagey 9-to-5 job. At least now you've retired. Ooh, the sandwich lady. You've now retired and you're trying to do something interesting. Give me that. No, you go away then. I don't care. But at least, the you that has a story to tell, at least the you that's struggling against the innate horrible sound of your voice, the innate just ugly, dog-s ugly self that you actually are. At least you're struggling, And that's something even people, when I was back playing private service, where probably most of you know me from, that's something I did, is I always fought, no matter what. I'm a warrior through and through. And that's not like some brag, that's not braggadocious, like, it's a silly struggle, but, there's nothing else you can do. It's the only cope you have. And you might as well, because you're going to have to get used to coping. That's all you are, is just a cope. So you can try and make the best out of your copes, or you can just wither away and eventually 41% yourself. Let's say if you're suffering from gender dysphoria, you can just give up or give in, or you can struggle. Why not? Like, what exactly do you have to lose? You have one person to talk to, and you're probably not interested in talking with them anyways. You probably dread talking with them, so you bury yourself in a video game all day so you don't have to. So at least with this, there's a chance, and you might escape the black pill. Just shock, surprise. Like, what do you have to lose? What else is there to go? It's a pretty simple and logical, I think, solution to the black pill, and so many people get trapped in this nihilistic loop and don't realize that there's very easy mental justifications for, you're struggling and what you want to do. And even what you don't want to do. Even if you hate it. The you that does it is still more interesting than the you that just gives in, says whatever. So, hey, it's your heckin' life. You do what you want with it at the end of the day, but you're the one that's going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to be able to talk to you. At the end of the day, you don't care about me. I don't care about you. We might pretend we're friends on the internet. Sure, it's fun, but at the end of the day, it's like that with everyone. Even if you're married with like 1 billion kids and you're living in a lap of luxury all your life, and life just happened to you, you're still staring at the ceiling at, like my father was at the last few minutes of life. And what went through his head, I'll never know. But he was one of the blessed people. He was beautiful. He had a successful singing career. He had everything any human being could ever want. And life just sort of happened to him. And he didn't have to think about these thoughts. And I didn't have conversations like this with him, because why burden my father with that? Sure, yeah, Dad, I'm just waiting for the right one to lose my virginity and start a great family together. Like, it'll happen someday. Thank God he's not around to see me. He's chilling with God or whatever, and God knows where. He doesn't have to worry about any of this, but hopefully he's not watching me. I'm pretty boring, but at least to other people, at least to me, I find myself interesting because the things I do and the things I struggle for. And even if you can do things you hate, just to be able to say, I did that. Like, I was out in the freezing cold. Why? Because it was a story that was interesting to me. I walked through the rain today, even though I didn't want to. I could have called a cab. I could have done a billion other things. I could have begged a coworker for a ride, but no. It's a drizzly, drainy, awful day. I picked up my umbrella out of my little back nappy, and I went and walked in my weeboo degenerate t-shirt out for the world to see, because I just don't care. And that's, interesting to me. You might find that to be absolutely ridiculous, but guess what? At the end of the day, your opinion about it really doesn't matter, and mine about your life really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, logically speaking, you should have some sort of way where you're able to tell yourself an interesting story, because if you can't, then why? Why exist? And no matter what, you're existing and you're going to suffer while you exist. And your options are not existing anymore, or, figuring out some way to have an interesting story or do something. So I don't see any way where you can realistically continue to be blackpilled when you understand at least that fact. Like, at least for me, at that point, there is no more realistic blackpilling. There's, either you're at the end of your existence and you've taken that upon yourself, which is a perfectly logical decision. But if you haven't, if you're not ready to embark upon that, then you have no choice really but to struggle, but to suffer, and suffer heckin' well. Life as it is exists because it is suffering. If you are conscious, you are suffering. That's just the default state of being. And there's a few things you can do about that. And one of them is to suffer well. And none of this is happy. It's not a good situation to be in, but, at least 80% of the population is going to experience this, especially men, because, your loneliness is only going to increase. And, women can't really understand loneliness like a man does. That's just it. Women will always have at least someone willing to talk to them and willing to do their emotional, babble. But, as a guy, forget about it. You have nothing. So, you've got to figure it out yourself. And there's no strength in this. It's incredibly weak. Every single person deep down is just weak and frail. You're basically glass, just waiting for someone to shatter. Sure, there's probably some guys that pretend they have this, macho, masculine, Superman personality, but at the end of the day, they cry on their pillows occasionally, just like everyone else. They're a broken piece of mess that's barely strung together, that hates themselves just as much as you do. They might either just be coping or deluding themselves in some hacking way. But yeah, so in your own mind, you've got to develop a logical process. You've got to develop if you're an intelligent person, you recognize that there is a you that's going to exist in the future, and you've got to move towards that goal, be it stockpiling money, delaying gratification, building up something in the future. And if you can't envision a future with you in it, then you shouldn't have a future with you in it. You should just give up and move towards it not being there. And I don't think most people are willing to take that step, really. I think there's a lot of people that say they are, and I've been there where it's like, well, is it worth it to keep going? And eventually I found that, it's debatable if it was even worth it for me to keep going up until this point. What exactly am I even existing for? Besides just, existing. There is no real hope or anything. It's just I'm existing to discover new ways to cope. And maybe there's some sort of redemption arc in that. Maybe, if there's some grand master plan for every human being, maybe mine through these videos or whatever is to give people ways to cope. Who knows? Maybe it's to share that, 35-year-old former NEET, soon to be retired, cringe content, epiphany stage where I can broadcast this out to the rest of the world. And who knows? Maybe because of how my country is crumbling around me, I just don't care anymore about what I say, or, hiding my opinions or any sort of thing like that. Maybe it's my midlife crisis where I'm just going through and going crazy to just, broadcast whatever thoughts to mark that I existed at least. There's a million different reasons why I could be doing this, and there's a million different justifications, but I'm trying to figure it out myself. And, at the end of the day, the me that experiences this and goes through this is at least more interesting than the me that doesn't. And that was something that while I was waging just grated heavily on me. This is my last month waging, probably forever. I might do part-time stuff just to get out of the house, just to, keep active or whatever. Maybe, we'll see. I don't know. There's a bunch of things I could be doing with my time as well, so I'm not sure. But, going forward, it's, what do I want to do at that point? And I have a lot of options and a lot of things and a lot of time. And it's time to start, for me at least, to figure out what to do with them. I have a lot of problems and no solutions, but I have cope. And at the end of the day, cope's about all I've got and all I can do. So I might as well cope. And to you, my friend, my dear listener, if you liked it, cope along with me. Keep coping. At least get some caffeine into you. That's all I can really say about the black pill on the subject, If you fall into the nihilistic trap, it's illogical, I think, just based on, anyone's current circumstances. But if you want to embrace it, well then follow it to its logical conclusion and see if you still want to embrace it. And if you do, I respect your decision. I hope everyone respects your decision, but at the end of the day, it's just a sad sort of things, but life is a tragedy. Everyone is a sad sort of ordeal at the end of the day. You don't really have a choice in the matter or how things go through. You can simply just, push along to push along, and it is what it is. And I am grinding towards the big Lumbridge Elite. I almost have it. I'll probably grind 85 just to be able to, do Varrock and Lumbridge in one fell swoop. Just knock them both down. The dominoes, get all that dopamine. And that's what I'm living for right now. And so, I hope you find what you're living for, buddy. Yeah, who are we kidding? Video games, cope, hide. That's the only solution. But it's not the worst. It could be worse, much worse. So, have fun at least. And figure out some mental framework where you can at least establish a way to proceed.